It's called a hostel, and I think the reason why they called it hostile because it was a hostile environment where there's like, it's an oppression. It's a constant oppression. You're fighting the system to try to get away.
The good things about living in the shelter: you have a roof over your head, you're fed, you're looked after, you have shampoo to wash your hair, you have your daily needs looked after.
If you put an individual into a setting that isn't a home, then their mental health is already closer to the edge of being in jeopardy of not being balanced and not being well, because being in a home is being included and belonging, and being homeless is being to the side.
There's a whole lot of consumer survivors in the shelter system. Problem is there's a lot of people that don't know that they're consumer survivors.
I would say that easily in a shelter system, whether identified or unidentified, that at least a third of the people that are living there are dealing with some form of mental health issue, whether it be anxiety, depression, some sort of diagnosis that they may or may not have. And I would say that also being homeless can cause you to have mental health issues.
I felt bad that I didn't have my own place, I didn't have a home, that I didn't have any privacy, that I was told what to do all the time, when to do. It's sort of like institutionalized. That way it made me feel bad. It made me feel sad, it made me feel more alone, more like worthless.
I've been in and out of the shelter since I got to Cornerstone shelter in Oshawa. That would have been 1999. That's a long time ago to be bouncing in and out of shelters.
A lot of the issue is around assessing and figuring out, like, does this person have some issues and can we get them some help? And that's really difficult to do when the person's moving from shelter to shelter to shelter to shelter. So if you can just make the individual feel safe and they can stay in one place for a while, you might be able to get some work done in order to try and get a diagnosis. Because without the diagnosis, you've got nothing. You can't get them access to housing, you can't get them access to funding, like ODSP, for example. They're pretty much like a ship without a rudder.
The thing is when people find out you have consumer health issues, and they see that as an opportunity to alienate you and manipulate you, because as soon as you catch them doing something like a gaslight technique, their go-to response is, no, you're crazy.
I find that people with mental health issues get the short end of the stick and are basically bullied in a sense.
Before I fell asleep, I took all my belongings and I put them underneath the mattress. What one guy did is push down on the bed while I was sleeping. Another guy pulled down on that piece of wood and took everything that I had to my possession, and including my cell phone.
I am gay, and I have had a hard time with other women in the shelter who have tried to petition, sign papers to have me removed because I was in a family shelter with my son, and they wanted me out because I was known gay.
I think bullying happens everywhere. It's sad, and everybody says there's a zero tolerance for it, and everybody tries to stop it, and everybody tries to have their place be a safe place where those kinds of things don't happen. When people come in, you're signing documents saying, you know, I will treat other people respectfully as I want to be treated, kind of thing. But the reality of it is that bullying is part of our life, and it does occur.
I'd never been in a shelter, but the first time, one only time, but I was there for like 3 years. It's like once I got in there, it seemed I couldn't get out.
3 weeks, like you go to Gateway and you try and see a housing worker, you have to stay there 3 weeks before you're allowed to see a housing worker.
I had to take the initiative instead of the housing workers. I wasn't getting anywhere with the housing workers. I was on a lot of lists for Toronto Housing, different things. I couldn't just go out and get a place and have first and last rent. I wasn't on any social assistance at the time. Didn't know how to get about it. So I wasn't really told or helped in any way to get an apartment, to move out. I finally got into like transitionary housing, where you still had to share common areas.
The percentage of people housed within 3 months that are in a shelter, yeah, I would say that's very low, like 25 if you want to be generous. First of all, it's just a supply and demand thing. Housing in Toronto is ridiculously high priced. So people who are mentally well, physically well, career well, if you want to call it that, are deciding to leave here because they can't afford to live here. So how is anybody who has any kind of challenge going to be able to make it when, like in terms of competing for that same rental market?
It was a good experience for me, though. It was a lot better than living on the streets.
Well, it helped me that I got housing. That's all I can say. Like, that's the only thing, that I got my name on a housing list and was finally housed.
The shelter allowed me to stay until I got housing. I was so grateful that they provided the service that I needed. It. They helped me to get around, to do the paperwork and everything. They changed my life totally. I used to be a drug addict, and then I really wanted to quit drug, and then I succeeded. This is a great place. We all share a room with one person alone. They give me food, and they give me a place, a room to, and a shower and laundry and everything. But it's a woman boss habitat housing. I'm lucky to be here. They're really nice. I love to be here.
So I've managed shelters, and when I hire someone, I kind of assume that whatever educational program they've taken in order to get to be working in the shelter has covered mental health. I feel like it should be mandatory because we want to know that people are ready for the reality that they're going to be facing. But I think there is a recognition that this is our population and that we need to serve them, and that if we're going to serve them well, we need to do this. So I would hope that that is getting more of a front seat now than it was in the past. It feels to me like it's a much larger portion of our population, and we need to evolve to meet that need.